Here are the top stories for today, March 18, 2021. Better safe than sorry, some government offices implement a physical closure as the surge in the country's COVID-19 cases seem far from over. All on hand, vaccines deployed for frontliners. The country's vaccine czar aims for the inoculation of at least 1 million Filipinos weekly starting April. Better government communications in the South, PCOO officials lead the inauguration of the Mindanao Media Hub in Davao City. And starting all over again, more businesses reopen this year as the country picks up from the pandemic's economic impact. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. We start with the COVID-19 situation in the country. Some government offices are on lockdown as the country deals with the surge in COVID-19 cases. The legislative branch and the courts are also ramping up measures amid the pandemic. Janice Cave leads our coverage tonight.
Work continues in the legislative branch outside of their chambers as these were placed on lockdown due to the rise in COVID-19 cases. Senate President Vicente Soto III announced in Wednesday's session that the upper chamber will be on lockdown until March 23 after it has so far recorded 28 COVID-19 cases. All committees are advised to do virtual hearings while session will resume on March 24, a few days before the Senate goes on recess on March 27. The House of Representatives followed suit but with a shorter lockdown that will last until March 21. House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco explained that the measure seeks to ensure the safety of the lower chamber's members and personnel. Likewise, hearings, committee meetings, and other events will be held virtually. The Labor Department's main office in Manila has also ceased operations beginning Wednesday afternoon until today. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said only essential workers will report to work on Friday, while the rest will return to work on March 22. Some courts are also physically closed for disinfection. Courthouses in the city of Manila, Pasay, and Parañaque are closed for the rest of the week. Meanwhile, other courts are closed until the end of the month for thorough sanitation and disinfection activities. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
With a rising number of COVID-19 cases, Quezon City and Manila are working non-stop to apprehend violators of the health protocols. In Quezon City, the local government is keeping an eye on places where residents are observed not following the minimum public health safety protocols. Mayor Joy Belmonte said certain areas will automatically be placed under lockdown when enforcers see that the people do not follow the minimum health standards such as wearing of face masks. 28 areas in the city are now placed under special concern lockdown. Meanwhile, a total of 1,023 violators of the unified curfew in Manila are apprehended as of Wednesday. The figure includes 112 minors and 911 adults. There will be a fine of 5,000 pesos or an imprisonment of 6 months or both, depending on the discretion of the court if the minor is only 12 years old and below. As more healthcare workers in provinces receive COVID-19 vaccines, vaccinators are reminded to take care of the vials to prevent wastage. Meanwhile, Tarlac combats disinformation in its move to contain the disease. Marita Mawahe brings us tonight's Provincial News Roundup.
Tarlac will not be under lockdown yet. This clarification was made in Facebook posts by Tarlac Governor Susan Yap and by the Provincial Interagency Task Force. Talks of impending lockdown circulated following increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in the province. Tarlac reported 25 new COVID-19 cases today, bringing the provincial total to 2,155. In Antique, the Provincial Health Office reports that the 30 elderly health workers did not experience any side effects after getting inoculated with AstraZeneca vaccines. Meanwhile, those who were administered with Sinovac only complained of mild side effects but felt fine after a few minutes. The province received 90 vials of AstraZeneca from the Western Visayas Health Department. In Negros Oriental, vaccinators are reminded to be careful in the administration of the COVID-19 vaccines to avoid unnecessary wastage. This after local health officers reports that there are 2 vials of the Sinovac that were short of the needed single dosage of 5 ml. Negros Oriental Assistant Provincial Health Officer Dr. Leland Estacion said she could not yet give details on wastage while the COVID-19 inoculation is ongoing. She, however, advised vaccinators to carefully withdraw from the AstraZeneca vials the prescribed 5 ml per dose of the vaccine to avoid wastage. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. assures that all the vaccines acquired by the government have already been deployed in various public and private hospitals nationwide. He said the total doses of COVID-19 vaccines that were used to inoculate healthcare workers are now at 1,125,600. In an interview at the Kapihan sa Manila Bay Media Forum, Galvez said they are targeting to inoculate 1 million Filipinos per week in April, another 2 million per week in May, and at least 3 to 5 million per week in July and in the succeeding months. Mass vaccination of the general public will start once the vaccine production and supply become steady between May and June.
Umabot na po ng 100% or nasa 1,125,600 vaccine doses na po ang nasa inventory natin na na-deploy na po natin nationwide. Ang pag-deploy po natin ito, Madam Marichu, talagang hanggang Batanes, hanggang Pulo, Basilan, talagang ginagamit pa natin ng mga military aircraft para po ma-deploy po yung mga vaccine po natin sa mga liblib na lugar. Inaasahan po natin na matatapos ang pagbakuna sa ating 1.7 medical frontliners at health workers pagdating ng kalagitnaan ng April. Dahil po may darating po tayo na 2.3 million vaccine ngayong March at saka sa early week of April.
COVID-19 vaccines are not for sale. The government made this reiteration amid reports of individuals and organizations who are selling the jabs to the public. In a joint statement, the Department of Health, the Food and Drug Administration, and the National Task Force Against COVID-19 reiterated that the emergency use authorization granted to any COVID-19 vaccine is neither a marketing authorization nor a certificate of product registration. This means that the vaccines cannot be sold to or purchased by the public. Those who are involved in unlawful sale, purchase, and administration of COVID-19 vaccines will face imprisonment and or fines of up to 500,000 pesos. Still to come, PCOO officials lead the inauguration of the Mindanao Media Hub in Davao City. And more businesses reopen this year as the country strives to recover from the pandemic's impact. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP, At nang himpilang ito,
President Rodrigo Duterte emphasized the importance of keeping the public informed and empowered through unbiased and truthful reportage. The chief executive made this remark in his virtual speech at the inauguration of the Mindanao Media Hub in Davao City today. The Mindanao Media Hub, the first media hub of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, outside Metro Manila, houses units attached agencies of the PCOO, including the Philippine News Agency, National Printing Office, Apple Production Unit, and the Regional Office of the Philippine Information Agency in Davao Region. Officials of the Presidential Communications Operations Office, led by Assistant Secretary Bam Garcia and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte, led the inauguration of the 700 million peso facility. It is equipped with a 10-kilowatt terrestrial transmitter and a 1-kilowatt digital transmitter to strengthen its signal within its areas of coverage. It also has a digital satellite news gathering system to streamline the sourcing of news.
With this Mindanao Media Hub, there will be easier coordination and sharing of correct and verifiable data across government media offices. And this is vital because now, more than ever, in this time of global crisis, information saves lives.
Meanwhile, the president also said the launch of the facility is essential in making Mindanao media workers at par with their counterparts in other parts of the country. In a taped message, PCOO Secretary Martin Endanar also said the hub will help disseminate accurate news and information tailored for Mindanao and its people.
Today, as we witness here together within the broadcast facilities of the Mindanao Media Hub, we are writing history as we open the vast network of information dissemination in this building, which was soft launched last December. Indeed, a well-informed citizenry reflects a well-informed government.
The Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys, has started to gain confidence from Dabaweños who are now seeing the benefits of a unified national ID. Grace Lamana, a registrant, admitted she was initially hesitant to avail of the national ID, but changed her mind when Philippine Statistics Authority personnel visit her residence and explained the advantages of having one. She said she now understands that having a national ID will fast-track all her transactions, such as opening a bank account. Just by presenting a PhilID or PhilSys number, the bank will no longer request for other IDs because your PhilSys registry information can already be verified. The national ID shall be a valid proof of identity that will simplify government transaction services where people will only need to present one ID during the said transactions. The Department of Labor and Employment said it has yet to receive any reports of COVID-19 transmission in workplaces. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III said this is because of the strict implementation of health protocols. He added that they have yet to receive complaints regarding the improper use of ventilation in places where they work. Meanwhile, Bello assured that employers who will not follow health guidelines in workplaces will be sanctioned. He added that they can recommend to the Department of Trade and Industry to stop the operation of firms and establishments that willfully ignore the order. Workers who do not comply with safety and health protocols will also be subject to disciplinary actions. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez disclosed that he tested positive anew for COVID-19. Lopez said he received his test result on Thursday and that he was asymptomatic. He said he immediately started isolation and will undergo another COVID-19 test later. Lopez is supposed to leave for Tacloban City to join President Rodrigo Duterte in distributing DTI livelihood kits to former rebels. This is the second time that the trade chief contracted the coronavirus. The first was in early December last year when he tested negative before Christmas. He said he contracted COVID-19 despite wearing a face mask and shield and observing physical distancing. In our business news, more businesses have restarted their operations since the government implemented a gradual reopening of economic activities. Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez reported that an online event with the Association of Filipino Franchise Incorporated on Wednesday. DTI's Impact Assessment Survey showed that businesses that fully ceased their operations have gone down to a 4.6% in early 2021 from a peak of 34.2% last year. The DTI surveyed over 15,000 micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSMEs from January 28 to February 10. Lopez said the government has been implementing its rebuild strategy short of revitalizing businesses, investments, livelihoods, and domestic demand to ensure the country's economic recovery. Since mid-2020, DTI has been rolling out its zero-interest loans for MSMEs to help them restart their businesses and survive amid the pandemic. Other initiatives are digital upskilling and capacity building interventions through the Best Bootcamp 3A training program for displaced overseas Filipino workers. Up next, stay vigilant. The PNP warns against attack by the New People's Army ahead of its anniversary. And having fun with care. Ilocos Norte opens a safe attraction for those tired of staying indoors. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You are still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Philippine National Police in Iloilo City has warned of possible attacks by the New People's Army as its founding anniversary draws near. The NPA is set to celebrate its anniversary on March 29. Colonel Gilbert Guerrero, director of the Iloilo Police Provincial Office, said they received reports that the NPA is plotting attacks among men in uniform, if not burning or destroying heavy equipment or government projects. He said policemen were reminded to be extra cautious and alert, particularly in high-risk municipal police stations. Guerrero said the series of encounters in the province, particularly in Lambunao and Haniway, are the results of the strong ties between the police, the army, and the community. The latest encounter led to the arrest of a certain alias Bing following a clash with a communist terrorist group on March 16. The Army recovered a .45 caliber pistol with ammunition, components in making landmines, and subversive documents. A public school assistant principal belonging to an underground group of revolutionary teachers was arrested for attempted homicide in Butuan City on Wednesday. The Police Regional Office 13 identified the suspect as Rosanilia Consad, the assistant principal of San Vicente National High School. Consad was arrested for the shooting of Private First Corporal Junrel Cornelio and CAFGU Active Auxiliary Emiliano Sahol Jr. in Agusan del Norte on November 21, 2020. Consad was also identified as a member of the Kaptipunan ng Gurong Makabayan or Kaguma, which is part of the National Democratic Front and militant women's group Gabriela. She was also involved in the recruitment of youth and students. The Pro 13 is saddened that a teacher who is supposed to mold the strong foundation of students is herself involved in terrorist activities. Residents and village officials of Bonbon and Matanglad in Milagros, Masbate condemned the terrorism, deception, and lawlessness of communist terrorist groups in a peace rally held over the weekend. Captain John Paul Belleza, spokesperson for the 9th Infantry Division, said the residents publicly denounced the CTGs and vowed to deny the terrorist group any form of support. They also burned replicas of the CPP, NPA, and DF flags. Lieutenant Colonel Siegfried Awichen, commander of the 2nd Infantry Battalion in Masbate, said troops are currently conducting intensified community support program operations to identify concerns in barangays. The military said more peace rallies are expected to be conducted by villagers in Masbate in the coming days. And in sports, the Integrated Cycling Federation of the Philippines, or PhilCycling, has called off its plans to hold the National Cycling Championships over the mid-year due to the recent spike in COVID-19 cases. PhilCycling initially scheduled the National Championships for road bikes from May 5 to 8 in Subic Bay and for mountain bikes and BMX in June in Tagaytay. Bambol Tolentino, also the president of the Philippine Olympic Committee, said all of their events will be postponed until the pandemic is contained. The holding of the PhilCycling National Championship has been in the works since January, as the National Sports Association is hoping to hold events in a bubble setup. The National Championships are part of the selection for the national cycling team for the 2021 Southeast Asian Games in Hanoi, Vietnam. To shake the pandemic blues away amid tighter quarantine conditions, the Ilocos Norte government launched a weekend outdoor park in downtown Lawag. The pop-up activity, dubbed Buy-in Sunday Market, was launched on March 14 at the newly refurbished Capitol Outdoor Park. From 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Sunday, the park in front of the Capitol will become home to food trucks full of homegrown goods, a local band for entertainment, and other amenities. Provincial Tourism Officer Ianre Raquel said that alfresco activities have become popular in 2020 as cities around the world promote outdoor dining and shopping to help businesses recover. Visitors are constantly reminded to observe physical distancing, wear face masks and shields as part of the new normal. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. Better safe than sorry, some government offices implement a physical closure as the surge in the country's COVID-19 cases seem far from over. All on hand, vaccines deployed for frontliners. The country's vaccine czar aims for the inoculation of at least 1 million Filipinos weekly starting April. Better government communications in the South, PCOO officials lead the inauguration of the Mindanao Media Hub in Davao City. And starting all over again, more businesses reopen this year as the country picks up from the pandemic's economic impact. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day and stay safe, everyone.